Or reading my comments, I noticed several regular viewers have stated that they find the EV tariffs too complicated, so are opting for just sticking on the standard tariff, which is around 27p at the moment. That's reducing slightly on the 1st of April. Are they doing the right thing? I'm Dave. Welcome to Dave Takes It On. Now, to open, did you know that your utility company has a legal duty to make sure you're on the right tariff? Well, more on this later. And straight away, as I look into the various tariffs available, I also find it is confusing to pick the right tariff. No, I'm not stupid, and I do understand about tariffs, public EV charging, better than most. So if I find it confusing, then many others will also. Well, since this is a video about home charging tariffs, I will ignore for now the public charging rates, but will return to them later, as most drivers will, at some time, have to charge out on the road. Well, for domestic electricity tariffs, there is a government-led maximum capped price that the utility companies can charge. It's called the standard variable tariff, and this is set at the moment around 27 pence per kilowatt hour. It will drop slightly from April the 1st. But note that if you choose to fix your tariff or choose one where the overnight rate is lower, the standard variable rate can be totally ignored by the utility company. You're getting confused already? Well, just to simplify, choose a standard variable tariff and your electricity will not cost more than 27 pence per kilowatt hour, day and night. Choose any other tariff and you need to check what rate they offer. So let's answer the first question. Are they doing the right thing by accepting the standard variable rate tariff for charging their EV? We do need to determine some average figures first. If we look at EVs, the efficiency varies wildly, but the average EV efficiency is heading up around 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Your electricity used to charge your EV will, we've established, cost you 27 pence per kilowatt hour. So this gives a price per mile driven of around 7 pence. Well, doesn't mean much. So how does that compare to a petrol or diesel car, generally known as ICE, standing for internal combustion engine car? Well, again, miles per gallon varies wildly. Some people claim to be doing outrageously high number of miles per gallon, but the most quoted figures from the most reliable sources, like the AA and the RAC, suggest that an average petrol car will do around 36 miles per gallon, and an average diesel will do around 43. Now, it doesn't matter what you get, these are averages, and the same averages apply to EVs and ICE cars. Well, the price of petrol and diesel today are quoted as £1.43 a litre and £1.52 respectively, so each mile driven costs them around 17 pence. So, conclusion number one. Choosing the standard tariff makes a lot of sense and allows you to drive your EV around for about half the price of an ICE car. And if we add in, or shall I say deduct, the fact that an EV generally has little or no servicing, then for the vast majority of drivers, an EV charged at home on standard variable tariff will cost a lot less than half what they used to pay as an ICE driver. So is that the end of the story? Oh no, because so many of my EV viewers think the idea of paying 27 pence per kilowatt hour is absolutely ridiculous. Now, many EV owners will remember electric night storage heaters and realise you can get cheaper electricity rates if you use it overnight. Back in my day, this was known as Economy 7, as you could get 7 hours of cheap electricity overnight from midnight to 7 a.m. And it was done because the grid back then was producing most of its electricity from coal, and you can't turn off the coal-fired generators. So they would tick away overnight when nobody was using it. So rather than waste it, the electricity and utility companies decided to sell it off cheap. So you could use it to heat up your storage heater and your hot water during these hours, you ended up paying a lot less for each kilowatt hour of electricity consumed. And that principle still applies today, and most utility companies offer one or more cheaper overnight tariffs, and most EV owners will be able to find one that suits them best. Well, each utility company, like British Gas, EDF, E.ON, etc., they offer a variety of tariffs of their own to choose from, fixed rate trackers and various other things, and most of them offer a special tariff just for EV owners, who then can use it to charge their EVs overnight. This makes for a huge variety of rates on offer, making your selection confusing, especially because the utility companies do not offer anything for free or even cheap without a catch. If you get cheap rates overnight, you will usually need to pay higher rates during the day. But the difference between how cheap the off-peak rate is compared to how dear the peak rate is means you will probably be better off choosing any of these tariffs. British Gas, for example, offers 9p overnight, saving of 18 pence per kilowatt hour on standard and 31p peak, a premium of just 4p. EDF offers 14p overnight and 40p during the day. OVO offers all electricity at the capped rate, but then credits back any EV charging you do overnight, making it come down to 7 pence per kilowatt hour. Octopus have far more variety than most and also offer a really interesting totally free EV charging package. More on this one later. Well, let's give you a quick and rough calculator to help you work out which is better. An average motorist drives 140 miles a week, that's 8,000 miles a year. An average EV does 4 miles per kilowatt hour, so it uses about 35 kilowatt hours a week. The average home consumption in the UK is about 65 kilowatt hours a week. If you are average, you are likely to save some money by switching to an EV tariff. If, on the other hand, you do a lot more miles than 8,000 and your home consumption is average or low, you will definitely save money by switching to an EV tariff. If you drive a lot less than 8,000 miles and your home consumption is much higher than average, you might not save any money at all, or you might even end up paying more. But don't take my word for it, the law is on your side. Ask your utility company for advice about your specific use. They have a legal duty to offer you the best tariff, so you pay the least amount. And if they do accidentally or deliberately put you on the wrong tariff, they then have a legal duty to advise you as soon as they discover this and offer to change it for you. Remember, the law is your friend when it comes to utility companies. Did you ever wonder why they give you comparative quotes when they send you out renewals, reminders and bills? It's for this reason. Well, my own choice was made over 4 years ago when I first got my EV, and it was a strange one. I do very much higher mileage than the average motorist, covering anything up to 20,000 miles a year. I also use far less than the average in the home, as we both work out of the house, we've got no kids, so we're out an awful large proportion of the time. In addition, our usage is low because we've purchased really low energy appliances like washing machines, and we don't use the high demand stuff like tumble dryers. EDF offered, and this is no longer available, but it offered an EV96 tariff with 40 pence peak rate and 9 pence off-peak. But the off-peak hours were from 9 o'clock each evening till 7 a.m. the next morning, plus all day Saturday and Sunday. And that explains the 96 as 96 hours of charging. Well, my usage, it turned out, was actually only 15% peak and 85% of it was off-peak. So this was absolutely brilliant. We just did the washing machine and the oven at the weekend. We did the dishwasher overnight on a timer. So almost all of our electricity was at the off-peak rate. Now, if you add up my net rate throughout the year, this is the number of units I bought at the peak rate and the number of units I bought at the off-peak rate, add them all together, divide by the units, it turned out a total of just 13 pence per kilowatt hour average, when the standard variable rate way back then was over 30 pence. And that was brilliant. I was paying less than half price running my car, and it meant in practice that my utility bill was about the same as a standard house on a standard variable tariff. Well, that tariff lasted 3 years before they upped, and they took the off-peak rate to 11p, and that then gave me a net rate of 15 pence. It was still attractive, but it was no longer the best offer available to me. Hence, I began to look for a change. Now, for all of you who say you can't be bothered, all I would say is I picked one 4 years ago. I've kept it for 4 years. Now I'm doing a little bit of research and I'll pick the next one, and that may last me 1, 2, 3 or 4 years as well. It's hardly a full-time job. So they upped the peak rate to 41p recently, and that was it. That was the trigger. And I began to look for the switch. And I've now done that. Now, who I chose is going to be the subject of a separate video looking much deeper into my actual usage and the net price for me with my particular circumstances. Now, the choice I made might, in fact, probably will, be very different to yours. So I'm not going to advise you which is the best. If you're interested in my choices and why I chose the one I did, I will give all the details, all the figures and reasons behind it in a new video which we'll be releasing later this month. Keep an eye out for that one. Well, back to ICE cars for the moment. If you simply stay on standard variable tariff, then you could get half price motoring per mile compared to your previous ICE car. If you chose a cheaper overnight tariff, you could easily get that halved again. Many of my viewers regularly comment and say they're paying just 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour. That equates to around 2 pence per mile. That's a tiny fraction of the cost, 17 pence, of using petrol or diesel, even in a really efficient car. In fact, 2 pence per mile is the equivalent to an ICE car owner buying petrol or diesel at 80 pence a gallon. No, not litre, per gallon. That's 18 pence per litre. And if anyone can find petrol or diesel at that price, please let me know. I'll go back. No, I won't. You know I'm joking. So in summary, if you can charge at home, an EV will be cheaper to run than a petrol or diesel car, and can be ludicrously cheaper. But not all of us only ever charge at home. Most of us do undertake some longer journeys, and there we will have to charge using public chargers. So what difference will that make? Well, let's take a very quick look at public charging rates to see how that affects the running costs of an EV. I first have to separate out Tesla from non-Tesla EVs because they have very different rates. For Tesla drivers with access to the supercharger network, you will be offered significantly lower rates, and those rates will actually vary at different locations, and they'll also vary different times of the day. The average rate for peak supercharging is around 50 pence per kilowatt hour, while the average rate for off-peak supercharging is nearer 40 pence, although various selected chargers can charge as low as 30 pence per kilowatt hour. Now, for this exercise, I'm not going to cheat, I'll just use the most expensive. I'll use the off-peak rate of 50 pence per kilowatt hour, on the basis this is the worst you're going to pay. This is available to almost everyone at almost any time of the day or night, And it does not need any additional payment for membership, special rates, introductory rates or offers. You get these rates automatically when you buy your Tesla. Well, for non-Tesla owners, your rates will also significantly differ, but from a much higher starting point. Now again, some manufacturers, when you buy your EV, offer an initial 12-month cut price rate. Grab those if you cannot get them. Or they'll offer a free or subsidised membership to one of the public charger networks like Ionity or GridServe. These are normally limited to a maximum of 12 months, so I do not include them here either. Some also offer memberships where a fixed monthly fee, you can get 25–30% off the full rate of charging your car. Once again, I've not included these as not all EV drivers will need or have memberships. Well, if you want full up-to-date prices, check out our monthly UK EV charging price guide. But in its simplest form, brace yourself, expect to pay around 79 pence per kilowatt hour as an average. That, by the way, is 10 times more than some of the home charging rates on offer. And a few networks do offer as low as 65 pence, but others go as high as 85 pence. I haven't even worked out how much dearer that one is. But I'm going to use 79p as an average. Now, if you charge just once or twice a year while you're on a road trip, just swallow the horrendous cost you'll have to pay at any public charger, as the rest of the year your EV electricity charging bill will be ludicrously low. Does it matter whether you pay 60p, 80p, 90p a kilowatt hour if it's for 1 or 2 trips a year? Just suck it and get on with living. If you charge regularly out on the road and you do a higher than average mileage, then you might want to look into public charging very differently and the likely costs before you choose what EV to buy. And a video on this will also be launching later this month. Watch out for that one. So just to finish up, I did mention that you can actually charge your car for free. This is not a catch. It's something called vehicle to grid. Not going to go into detail here, it's not that sort of video. However, the grid has excess electricity at times when it's sold really cheap, and it has a shortage at other times when it's sold really dear. If your car is plugged in and can do it, vehicle to grid means that when there's loads of electricity in the grid really cheap, your car will store it inside the battery as long as it's plugged in at your charger outside your house. At peak demand, some of that electricity will be resupplied back into the grid, and for that someone gets paid for it. Now in this case it's the utility company. They take the money that they make on selling electricity through your car, and in return they will give you totally free EV charging. So if you can get totally free EV charging, go for it. That is one of those win-win situations. Now I will warn you, not many cars can actually do it, and I'm not sure this is operating in all areas. However, vehicle to grid and vehicle to X, which is the grid plus other things, is becoming much more popular. And in the future, I predict that more and more and more people will actually charge their cars at home totally free. And I'm not joking. Well, thanks very much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please click the like button. And if you would, please subscribe. It makes such a difference to us as a new channel. If you click the bell icon, the notification, you'll be notified the next time we launch a video. And a massive, massive, massive thank you, last but not least, to our Patreon members. This side of the business is growing dramatically. We've had our most successful month ever, and thank you so much for your support for the channel. I'm Dave.